Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach, and as you can see, the view behind me, or to the side of me, is a little different. I'm at the Cabana Bay, which is in Orlando, Florida, because I'm going to be speaking at VS Live Orlando over the next 2 days. So
We
are. Yes, we will. I'll get to you in a moment. Okay, just chill. So when I've done this at San Diego and Chicago and some other places this year, I don't know, I like doing these episodes on the road. It's kind of fun. It is a little awkward, even if it's just myself, it's awkward because I don't bring all my equipment and I gotta use my keyboard and stuff. And it's especially awkward if I bring somebody else on because now I gotta type on the side and we have to get all close and stuff. It's a little awkward. But so yeah, this hotel is actually like a 50s style hotel.
50s, 60s retro motel.
You really, I mean, you can kind of tell a little bit behind if you see the blue color and everything, and they got the what is it, what's the shampoo? What is that called?
Oh, the VO5, yeah,
VO5,
and the Zest soap.
Soap,
Yep,
and,
definitely retro.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
And so
And lively.
it's a little, it's a style unto its own. It's a nice hotel. It's just you just have to accept the 50s and 60s style look to it. So that's where I am, and I decided to bring this guy into the conversation today. His name is Allen Conway. He also works at Magenic, so I want to thank him for doing an episode or two. We'll see how this goes. It might fall completely on its face, and we never released it at all, and I never put it on my channel because it was just awkward and
Be a
horrible.
blooper reel.
Well, it could be that, in a manner of speaking, but we'll see how this goes. And you have a channel too, right? Isn't it like the Big Mountain Man or something like that?
Oh, so the Big Mountain Man, Mr. Mountain Man, yeah.
Mr. Mountain
Mr. Mountain Man. Actually, I'll probably do a video of Cabana Bay for fun, just if people wanted to see what it looks like. That is not a professional channel. It's a travel and mountain channel. I actually do have a professional channel. It has exactly 0 videos, but I'm planning on spinning it up. It's just under Allen Conway. Okay. And I actually am thinking that now that I've got more savvy with video editing and creating and stuff, it's a lot easier being at the computer than having to be on location. So yeah, I might do that as well. Yeah.
So I will put links in the description for his channels so you can check them out. And don't you have one where you're doing pull-ups or something?
That was the one that was the North Carolina Apple Festival, and okay. I was at a Army booth, and it was just a novelty to see, and they gave me a shirt, and it was kind of fun.
Did you do 50 or something?
I thought I was going to do 3. I ended up doing 11. 11. So it was better than I thought. And the year before, a video you've never seen was push-up contest.
Oh, did you told me about it.
And I came in second because I decided to be legitimate about how I do them, and essentially my nose or whatever hit the ground. Well, another gentleman a bit younger than me came in and started doing these like quarter, and they didn't care. So my form killed me by I think I lost by maybe 3 push-ups. I got 97 or something like that.
97 in 4 minutes? Right?
Yeah, that's right. It was timed. It was like, how many can you do in 4? And I cut it in quarters because you could stop. Mm-hmm. So I did 25 and stop, and 25 and stop, and by the end I thought I was going to pass out because it was like 93 degrees. It was a Labor Day weekend.
I wonder how many
I think, yeah.
I should try to how many could I do in 4 minutes? I have no idea. I've got no clue. None. So
we'll do them like that guy, and then you'll win the contest. Yeah, just a little one. So I don't have that on my channel, but yeah.
Yeah, but the other reason why I bring this up is because it may be hard to see in the camera, but this guy, he does a little bit of the weightlifting.
The Gold's Gym.
Yeah, what was your bench this year that you hit 375 or something?
385.
385.
Yeah,
okay.
And I did 385 one time, clean, no assistance. And right now I'm doing 315 7 times the other day. So that's pretty good. That's 3 plates on each side. I enjoy it.
I could do 315 no sets.
Well, it takes a while. For me, it's and I know you enjoy working out as well. It's the antithesis of sitting. It's the 180. It's the yin to the yang for our job. It's a great complement to literally kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only be healthy, but do something that's drastically different to give balance between us sitting and doing and doing something active. So
I've never.
I enjoy it.
I mean, like Alan said, I love working out, biking, doing lifting weights and cardio and all this other stuff. But I've never been into the real power lifting and getting, where you're benching that much. I think the most I ever did in my life was 250 or 275 once.
Yeah, that's still fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of people that can't do 225.
Yeah,
and
I'd be hard pressed to see what I did there. Hard pressed. I don't know even I could do 225 now.
Well, I think it's one of those things like anything. If you gave yourself a month, you'd work back into it. But I don't consider myself a power lifter. I mean, you brought it up. I mentioned a 1 rep max, but bench press
I consider you a god.
God. That is the only thing that I do a 1 rep max. I'm not into injuries.
Yeah.
And I've been injured before. Not directly rated from weightlifting, but I've had, a hernia and things. And I tend to be pretty good about not getting hurt. I don't get strains and pulls and things because I stay in that 8 to 10 rep max. And sometimes if I'm getting tired, it'll come down to 6. But I rarely do 1 because there's just such a high likelihood, and I'm not competing. Right. So it's a neat conversation piece. It's a neat you against yourself, the man against the weights kind of thing, competitiveness. But it doesn't yield anything after a point to try to do 1 rep max deadlifts all the time because unless you're competing,
right?
Because you could really get hurt. Same thing with squats and.
Yeah.
It's just what you want to do. It doesn't mean people shouldn't do that. It's just you got to be very, very careful.
Yeah, some of these guys that you see like in the World's Strongest Man competitions that they are just, they don't show you the horrific injuries that happen when they fail. Because then they can be awful. One last thing about that, I sometimes see videos from Eddie Hall. You know that guy?
Yeah. I think he has a TV show now, doesn't he?
I don't know if he's got a TV
on History Channel or something, some competitive thing. I maybe something, yeah.
But he had a video which I thought was cool because he had like I don't know if she's the world's strongest woman, but like he said, pound for pound, how much she weighs compared to how much she can lift.
Oh, I saw that on YouTube. Did you send me that?
I might have.
Yeah,
it was like.
Yeah.
He said if he had to do the equivalent, it would be ridiculous how much he'd have to lift. He goes, so yeah,
it's like an ant.
Yeah, so he's like, you just look at the weight she does, and you might go, well, okay, that's fine, but then when you really realize just how much she's doing compared to, like how big she is, it's really damn impressive.
Back in the men's side, the Franco Colombo, remember back in the day? I mean, he wasn't that tall, but he that classic piece of him over in Italy picking up the car from the back, and so I think there's an expectation that bigger people can be big, but smaller people or people with a different frame or whatever aren't able to as much. So it's fun.
Yeah. So speaking of fun, we're going to do some code here, and I'm actually going to do some code. And Allen's like super genius in JavaScript. He like lives and breathes triple equals all the time. And
double equals versus triple equals,
yes,
right?
Exactly. And you have done .NET, and you still do .NET.
I do, absolutely. So. I mean, we've got Visual Studio up here. I've lived in this for years. The only reason I don't use it as a mainstream editor these days as a web client developer is it's just a little heavy hitting. And so if I was to do any type of .NET or, I'm assuming .NET Core or anything, I would absolutely be back in Visual Studio.
Yeah, I do see a lot of people developing in VS Code, even in .NET.
Yeah.
The only reason I don't is because I think it's just what you're comfortable with.
Sure.
I've been in Visual Studio through thick and thin since 2002, and I'm actually doing a whole day talk tomorrow on Visual Studio. But it has its quirks, and it has some things that they probably could cut out and all this other stuff. But it's almost kind of like what you're used to, and that's what I feel fast in. So.
I've had challenges. I wouldn't say. I mean, it's the first word that comes to mind with newly adopted web client developers. I have a hard time leaving Visual Studio. To just say at least give it, because when you're just working with static files that are pretty lightweight, and the extensions that come for VS Code are made for, you've got terrific ones for Angular, JavaScript, React, CSS. It's tremendous integration and ability to develop in that IDE. So,
and that makes sense. Especially if you're doing web development.
Yeah.
It would make a lot more sense to use something like VS Code. So
it's hard to get some folks out of Visual Studio because you can obviously do this. In fact, with my early ventures into Angular, that was basically Angular and ASP.NET mixed in the same project. Of course, you use Visual Studio. VS Code was at its infancy at that point, And so, no, I still very much appreciate, I have Visual Studio. And so, no, I like it.
All right, so but I think we're going to get into something that you probably haven't seen before, which is the thing I love, which is analyzers, and these are analyzers I've written for Rocky. So the one that I am going to do is this one, add analyzers for business rules. So Alan's going to see how the sausage is made, or however.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'm going to do though is a little different. I used to just dive into these and start copying and pasting code. We're actually going to, because I got this V6 project here, which for my 50 subscribers, which watch religiously. I know you all do.
So is this is part of the CSLA Git repo you pulled down, and you're going to submit a pull request once you complete this? Okay.
And I already got my branch made.
Oh wow, I have not downloaded the new version of Visual Studio. Yeah.
So typically what I've done is kind of build the analyzer, maybe the code fix, and then I come into here. I'm going to do this in reverse because it's been a while. This work is going to be around business rules, and it's been a while since I actually did anything with business rules in CSLA. And as you can see here, a couple things that we want to catch is that in I should actually edit this because this description is not. Rule doesn't call this on the given context within. I think the method is called execute. Yeah, seems weird. So we'll update the comment. And then we should really be deriving from this rather than just business rule. And if you are in an asynchronous rule, somewhere within, I should have kept that up in rule context. Within execute.
So the analyzer, is it real-time feedback within Visual Studio for these violations?
That's the intent.
Yeah. Okay.
So it actually gets bundled up with CSLA in our case. And so when you install CSLA, the analyzers are also installed. And so they work real time as you're editing code. Gotcha. And they get flagged as, if you set it as a error, it actually stops your build.
Builds too. Okay.
What I did here is when I launched it, when you create the template for an analyzer project, it adds in this V6 extension project. And so what that does is it actually launches another version of Visual Studio. Then you can play with the rules here. So these are kind of like integration tests. So you can see if I pick one of these, serializable type tests, I think. Some of these, yeah. So this is like just a quick visual for me to see are things failing and they aren't. Then you see the red here, and so that's my analyzer firing. And they do show up in the error list as well, but they don't stop the build when you distribute analyzers as an extension package.
Okay.
So, because then those are actually, when you install as an extension, they're for everything that could ever be brought in to a Visual Studio project and solutions. Whereas if you do it as a NuGet package, then it's only for the project you'd install it in.
Okay.
So in this case now, that's why I don't distribute them as an extension, because to me, if they want to fail, if you don't see it fail, you're just going to see build successful. You never look at the screen and go, oh, whatever, and you move on.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to come here first because I actually want to see if I can get some cases in place, because I need to remind myself business. We'll call it business rule cases, because I have to remind myself how do these actually work? Business rule cases, and I'd actually ask Rocky right now, but he's doing a hands-on lab today, and he's out of commission until maybe dinner. We might go to dinner with him, but it's funny because sometimes I'll ask him things about CSLA, and he won't remember. And you think, well, this is his bread and butter. This is what he's written for 20 years, oldest open source project in .NET. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, that's good for him. But you'd think, how do you not know these things? You wrote this, but
I forget over the weekend. I have to write notes to myself on Friday about what I'm in the weeds with, so I remember
What's
on Monday.
Name?
Yeah, where was I? What was I doing? Yeah, so I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I in supporting some of my own frameworks too, it's like you kind of just sit there and go, what does this do? And you kind of forget, So I think it's keep hearing something beeping. Or is that the... What
is that mouse?
What is...
The hard drive?
I don't know. That's weird. That's kind of odd. I don't know what
it has gone away.
Yeah, it has gone away. All right. Using CSLA rules. Okay. And then I think you have to... We don't need to really create... Wait, I said override. Come on, what's...
I'm not getting IntelliSense to complete the...
Yeah, it should... Because if I look at his examples, there's a couple of them he has out here. That's a property rule. And a business rule. And then you override. Fine. Copy and paste. Z. I'm the best editor in the world.
Interestingly, I've had this same problem with both Visual Studio and VS Code over the years. There are times where I've had to shut the IDE down and open it up, and then voila, everything's fixed. I don't know what quirk it runs into, but...
Right. So, we're going to call this just execute without add, and that's going to be weird. Why would I do that? But the point is that if you're writing a business rule, that on the context you get in, there are a number of add methods on it. And so the point of the rule is you get, when a property changes, these rules fire, depending on which property it is. And so what you're trying to do is say, well, either this rule like calculates the value that gets set to another property, or it not raises an error, but says there's an error on the object, and so on. So you should be calling one of these add methods. It would be really weird to create a business rule without invoking add.
Yeah.
So that's one of the rules we want in here. So at some point I should have that this method should have an error because there are no add calls. So that's one of them. Then in my notes there was... The rule is asynchronous, and the rest from business rule, we should change the business rule async, because there is, if I remember right, yeah, there's a business rule async. So what that is saying is that I have a case of a asynchronous rule, old school. So, and what this means is that you actually did it as a async void execute. I think he's got an example. Asynchronous rule, property rule.
Where did you get this stuff from? This is another one. Async lookup customer.
Yeah, this is something that Rocky did. I'm kind of surprised that it's. Yeah, it lacks a weight. So this is also where another rule just in the general .NET sense is kicking in and saying, well, you have an async void, but you're not doing anything with an await like you would have here. So we can get rid of that one by just creating like a private static task dummy await and get that in there. And then we do this, we can just say task.complete a task, and that should be good. And then we can say in here, just to get rid of that error, just await, dummy await. Or we should actually call that, oh, that's not, okay, it's thinking it's a property, because I did it wrong. And then we want to say that. There we go. And now, what is it complaining about? It hides, I thought didn't I say override?
On the other one. I don't know.
Huh. All right, so at least now the stuff is going away. But this should have an error because we are not inheriting from business rule async. So the history behind this is Rocky added the support to do asynchronous business rules, but that was before, and I think he actually did it for Silverlight. That was before there was like task, await, async, and so he had to kind of shoehorn it in and do it from business rule, more or less. I don't remember all the details, but one of the things that he's tried to do in recent history is actually add a business rule async class to really enforce the notion of a asynchronous business rule. So what we're going to try to do with this is say if you have a business rule that you are doing async, but you're inheriting from this
that class, not the async class.
We want to change that so you're going from the right class. And then the final one is public class not calling complete, and we want to inherit from business rule async. No, it's not going to do that. That's fine. If I say override here, and now it's giving me the options. Okay, that's fine. See, now we got execute async. It actually provides a task back. That's actually perfect. That's what we want. But long story short, from the machinery of CSLA is that you have to do context dot complete, because essentially you have to tell what do you because I'm not returning, you can just say task dot complete. That doesn't matter. You have to tell that CSLA that you're actually done. And it seems weird because it's like, well, I have an async rule and returning a task. Why would I need to tell CSLA to complete here? This is one of these, go ask Rocky. I'm not.
Yeah.
In the old way, you kind of had to, because there was no good way to signal CSLA that you were done, because it's async void. There wasn't task. For some reason, I just remember you had to call complete. But now with an async rule, it is returning task. We should be able to say, like, async task and just have the async await everything just work within .NET, but it doesn't. You still have to call complete. So what we want to have here is this method should have an error because we don't call complete, which is also, I'm gonna do this up here. I'm actually gonna say this context.complete, because I don't want that rule to fire here as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just want these to be one and done, so I can look at these really quick and go, yep, they're all read in the right spots. Okay, so now I've got the logic in my head, and now I can start coding for these. So there's going to be 3 of them to do. This one won't have a code fix because there's no real way for me to figure out where or how or what add call you want to do. This one can. I should be able to say I can go in and code fix them to change them all to business rule async. Because if you can add code fixes, better off you are. Then you don't have to have the developer do everything. And then this one, I think I might be able to. I might be able to figure out where are all the exit points out of the method, wherever they are, and just stick a complete right before you would exit. So that might be a place we're going to do a code fix. All right, so I'll come back here, and what do I want? Naming is hard.
Yeah, of course, yeah. The hardest part, everybody says, software engineering.
Off by 1 errors and naming things. I don't know, what like the 3 mistakes or 3 hardest things in software. So naming things. These are business. So what's the first easiest one you can do? I think actually this one, we're going to tackle that one first. So what am I going to call this? Async business rule using old asynchronous execute or something like that. Analyzer. Of course, we copy and paste here, right? So what I say, business rule using old asynchronous. Oh no! I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Business rule. Asynchronous business rule inheriting from business rule. Analyzer. There we go. These are long names, I get it,
Mm-hmm.
but now we got to go through all the just, oh yeah, I got to rename that because blah, blah, blah. And we got to have the descriptor here to say inherits from business rule. It's
Rule squared.
Yeah. This should be kicking in.
Rule 2. You remember back in the VB6 days? There was a lot of
Rule
method
2,
naming like
Rule
that.
3.
Yeah, just method names and function names. Just, it was crazy.
Rule 2 EX.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah, that's the Win API.
Yep. So we're going to put a new constant here because we need a new one because we're putting in a new rule. So asynchronous business rule inheritance. And we'll just leave it at that name. Then we got to change this. Then we got to have our constants class. We don't, when I say have to, this is just the patterns I've been following for how I do all these things. So I'll have another file here that has all the...
Are you the originating author of the analyzers? Or
For
Rocky
CSLA.
started? For CSLA, okay.
Yeah, I am. And we want to rename it this. There we go. We'll get rid of these because we don't need those. God bless it. All right, so that is the title. New title message. That's the constant. Okay. Find business rules. It's always hard to type on an angle.
Yeah.
Rules. Find asynchronous. Business rules that do not derive from business rule async. Okay, so we're going to then pull that. This is all like, what do they call this, yak shaving or something like that, where it's like it's the tedium that you have to do, but we have to do this because
housekeeping.
Yeah, exactly, housekeeping. Asynchronous business rules should, wait, how did I, yeah, okay, asynchronous, I want to be consistent, rules should derive from business rule async. Okay, so that is also, that's good now. Put that there. It's a diagnostic severity, I think we could say warning, but the whole point is we want people to be in the right space, so we're going to leave it as an error for now. And then we will put that there, and the name of the analyzer has to go there. And so I don't think we use this or that. We just had those two. Okay. And then we support that rule as a diagnostic, initialize, and then we're going to analyze a method declaration. So we're going to rename that. And that's good. And we say method declaration. All right. So then I need to say method declaration syntax, and that is not a field node, that's a method node. There we go. Okay, so now we're getting closer to where we need to be, except all this crap has to go.
It's funny because as a JavaScript developer these days, var is, not common practice anymore because that's ES5. There's scoping variables with let and const. So when I see var, my immediate knee-jerk action is to go, that's wrong. Switching gears.
Why do I have, because this is code I copied from somewhere, why do I have this crap in somewhere else? So I'm just going to copy that so I can get that later, because that's weird. That should not be there. So let's see. We're all in. Oh, that was. Which one did I copy it from? Hold on. Z. So what we really want is public string C. I was like doing an example, and then I never deleted it from the code that I checked in. But Rocky accepted the PR, so it's his fault.
Rubber stamp.
Yep. Rubber stamped it. All right, so let's do this and say that. Let's say find all. And, well, that's all his stuff. I don't care about that. But there was, here. That's got to go. That's just, there's no point in that. I don't know why I even have that there. That was bad. That was bad. This is being used by, yeah, it's being used by something there, and this is also being used by something. Yep. Okay, so that is actually good. But that's kind of like when you sneak in on a status report, just like a little like funny comment, just to see if people are actually reading
see if
them or
they're
not.
cool.
So
This test to see.
yeah. All right, so we're going to do one more. We're going to do one more episode, but I'm going to stop it here because we are at the kind of 30-minute mark. So we'll see if we can at least get this coded up and maybe a test and maybe the code fixed. We'll see how far we can go. So that's all I'm going to do for this episode right now. Thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.